Welcome to Retconned, and this is a story all about how my life got turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute to sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called Retcon. I'm your host, Sal Berrigan. With us today, we got Tim Blakiki, Rick Rivera,
Hi.
and Roger Fisk. How you
Very
guys
nice.
doing today?
Well done, sir.
Kudos.
Well, we got to start the show off with a couple of retcons brought to us by Roger. Roger would like to remind us that Robert Downey Jr. only made $75 million last year. So, boo-hoo for Robert Downey Jr. Tom Hardy is only 5'9", while Daniel Craig is 5'10". We had said that they were probably about 5 Rick.
Yeah.
So we'd like
They
to
missed it by 2 or 3 inches.
yes. So we were a little off.
I think that makes them the two shorter Bonds. Or Craig, I think, is shorter, and we'll see if Hardy comes into play.
Who's the tallest Bond?
Sean Connery.
At what?
I think he's 6'4".
It's a tall
That's
Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Big man.
Yeah, that is actually really tall. I've always thought he was shorter.
Yeah, Connery, before he was an actor, actually won he came up third in Mr. Universe or Mr. Europe or something at that time.
He was doing what, bodybuilding
Yeah,
competition?
yeah, fitness competition.
Sweet.
Yeah, and he was in real good shape for that role.
Sean Connery? Really?
Yeah.
I guess they had different standards back then.
Just a little bit, man.
He was. I mean, he's not the roided out, 48-inch guns that we see today.
From Sean Connery.
Yeah. From Sean Connery to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, there's a bit of a.
Arnold Hughes' new training techniques that he came up with that involved roids. So to start the show off, we've got actually Man of Steel 2 rumors already floating around. We don't even have BVS, and we already have Man of Steel 2 rumors coming around. Tim, let us know what you found out about these things.
Yeah, I saw a real interesting column on comicbook.com this week that basically, or it might have been Heroic Hollywood, maybe they got it from Heroic Hollywood, but basically the rumor is that the main villain in this sequel will be Brainiac, and the basic idea behind it is that Brainiac is going after the Kryptonian Codex that was seen in the original Man of Steel, and that the person who is now in possession of it, or a portion of it, that he needs to complete it, is actually Kara, Supergirl, who was, I think at the beginning of Man of Steel, you see almost like a Green Beret unit being trained, and this unit is going to be sent out into the universe in search of other planets. Krypton's obviously dying, and this unit will be sent out to find a planet that could be terraformed for Kryptonian use. So they get sent out, and once Krypton explodes, they're lost to the planet. Once he sends this out there, or once he's searching for it with his incomplete codex, he actually creates Bizarro, which actually makes sense for his origin story, I guess. You know, you can't create an actual Kryptonian, so you create this like half, 3/4 baked person who turns into Bizarro. I think it's a really cool angle. This idea of using Kara Supergirl, though, apparently the script, and this is actually what Zack Snyder, before Batman versus Superman came to fruition, this is what they pitched as the Man of Steel 2 sequel. And they really, really want Supergirl to become a character, and this strong heroine, this strong female presence is actually apparently what is pulling George Miller's interest in this movie as a possible director. He obviously just did Mad Max Fury Road, which had a strong heroine in Charlize Theron's character, and he's just kind of known for using that as a calling card in his movies. This is interesting. I don't quite know how I feel about this. I don't know. Opinions, guys? I mean, does this spark anybody's interest? I'm more confused than excited.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said kind of confused me a little bit.
I like the inclusion of Bizarro. Bizarro as a character has always been interesting, like an inverse Superman who has his powers but doesn't have the intellect to be able to use it properly. I kind of like the Bizarro that we saw in Young Justice, even though we didn't see him named Bizarro. The fact that he actually did the Bizarro logo on his chest kind of implied that. But it's always the dynamic. And the question that always arises, where would Superman go if he wasn't raised by the Kents? And we've seen great storylines that have arisen by that.
Red Son.
Red Son.
Oh yeah.
God, so epic.
Yeah.
So
Dude.
good.
That was a great one. I mean, the one thing that I keep going back to, I mean, we did see an illusion of Kara in Man of Steel, did we not, Tim? With
Yeah.
the open
Yes.
pod and clearly meaning that another Kryptonian was on Earth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just for the people that may not be aware of that little Easter egg in Man of Steel.
I have to go back and watch that. But
You know, honestly, since when I first saw that movie, I wasn't all that impressed by it. I didn't catch it in theaters and heard the wrath against it, and then caught it on home video. Maybe I let that criticism creep into my brain. But since I've been getting so excited about Batman versus Superman, I've gone back and watched it once and a half times, just about. It's not as bad as I think people think it is. There's a
Yeah,
lot
don't drink the
there.
Kool-Aid, man. I think it's one of those movies where it keeps getting better and better the more you watch it.
Yeah, it really does. There's just something out there in that holds up pretty well. I think, and on top of that, I think the Batman versus Superman explanation of the destruction of Metropolis, I think, is going to play a big part in a lot of people's opinions about that. Once they see how, and it's almost reverse engineered, like they didn't mean to do it. It's amazing that we're about to get a major movie, which I am predicting big numbers for, that is actually basically a response to criticism of its prequel. This movie wasn't supposed to happen the way it's going to happen, and it's only happening because the biggest gripe about the original movie was, Superman's destroying a city. He's not that sort of person. He's a bad superhero because of it. And Zack Snyder is stepping back and being like, okay, you guys just kind of wrote a movie for me. I'm going to base an entire universe around this criticism.
It's a great
It
point.
holds up. Yeah.
I never believed that Superman should be held up as a Christ figure personally. That was always my biggest criticism with the movie. Only because the character, I guarantee you, would have never seen himself as a Christ figure. He's like, hey, I'm a normal human who's only trying to do what is best or who's only trying to do what he can for the good of the planet. He's not trying to, sacrifice himself or set himself as an exemplar. If people follow his example, that's great, but the Christ figure that was shoved down our throats was not the Superman that I personally would have gone with. Now, the fact that so many people are fighting it, I think there's a lot of criticism that is very true, and we should probably be listening to it a little bit. Zack Snyder deciding that he wants to build a whole universe around it, and the fact that just recently this week we've heard that the suits over at Warner Brothers want more Batman than Superman, means that they aren't 100% comfortable with the Superman character. And so they'd rather cover it up with Ben Affleck's performance. So I think there's already a chink in the armor in regards to Superman character as being built up.
It also has to have something to do with the profitability of that character. I think those suits are looking at numbers. They're looking also. Henry Cavill's performance in that movie wasn't drop dead, jaw dropping. It was good. It was sustainable. It was adequate. And apparently Ben Affleck's performance is jaw dropping. Apparently the standing ovation. Now, at the same time, I know people say, like, of course they gave it a standing ovation. You can give a movie a standing ovation, but when you rewrite a contract because of a performance, that means you have more faith in it.
Good point. I agree. I mean, they to Tim's point, they must have seen something that they loved in Ben Affleck in that screening. There's a reason why that stuff happened, and I don't think it's a red herring. I don't think it's BS. It sounds pretty genuine, especially if they've signed, like you said, they reworked his contract.
Like I said before, we gotta actually wait till we see the storyline. I hate to put my whole faith in a whole series just based off my own feelings and nothing else. I'd rather wait till we see an actual script, or heck, let's just wait till movie day.
Sure.
On
Are
that,
we all going to
on
see
that,
it that day?
yeah. Let's face it. I totally will be supporting that number, even though it'll be helping Tim's point.
Yeah.
But I'm still gonna go see it. I'm a fanboy. They've got my money no matter what.
Yeah, Tim, can we get a handicap of like $50 or something? You know, if it does
No, not at all. I'm out for blood with this thing. Out for blood.
Handicap.
In fact, do you guys bleed?
Ha ha ha
Wow.
ha! Because that's what Batman said in that trailer of that movie that we're all
But
talking
what
about. Oh my God,
what if
that's it's so funny.
Superman was like,
Uh,
yes, and then
See,
Batman's
Sal,
like,
and you were
oh.
worried about your ADD medicine.
Uh,
You're good, man.
uh,
Oh, boy.
speaking of movies, Deadpool
Nice
and
transition, brother.
yeah,
Movies,
I got nothing on this one, guys. I mean, throw me a bone, will you? Anyways, Deadpool and Gambit are apparently in the same X-Men universe. Are we super excited about seeing Deadpool actually go into the X-Men universe? Have we unfolded the storylines enough so that we can shove 2 more characters in?
Oh, wait, is this in the comics or you
No.
talking about?
We're talking about films here, bruh.
Well, Channing Tatum's Gambit, yes.
No.
I would love to see Channing Tatum as Gambit, but
Okay, so that's nixed. That's not.
I love the character of Gambit. I really do. I know he's not everybody's favorite X-Men character. I enjoy it. I feel like he's comical. He's lighthearted. He has an all right power.
he was boning Rogue.
Yeah, I mean he's good. He's all right. That movie is Poison. We've had the director just left it this week. We had even Channing Tatum himself like waver on if he was going to do it. I'll be shocked if that movie ever comes out, and even if it does come out, I'll be shocked if it's a quality movie. You guys are much higher on Deadpool than I am, even though I guess somebody recently saw a advanced version of it and said that it's, great, that they do the R-rated gimmick very well. I hope that movie does well. I've got no bones about it. I'll absolutely see it. I'm just not chomping at the bit to see it. I do think it will be very, very interesting and very cool if we get to see the first class version of Professor X and Magneto against that Deadpool. Now, Deadpool's obviously, I don't quite know how they're going to work the timelines because they've gone back with the X-Men. 60s, 70s, Apocalypse is going to be in the 80s. It almost feels like something's going to have to happen in the 90s, possibly, before they catch up to where Deadpool's set. But to have Ryan Reynolds' character interact with the Magneto that we're currently seeing, that could be some comedy gold.
Wait. Just time out, because we got to actually figure out where Deadpool is in the timeline to begin with. I mean, he
I
was
believe he's
a
in
weapon.
present day.
He's a Weapon
Yeah.
X creation, though. So
Well, is he?
yes,
Because
he is.
even
He's Canadian, eh?
technically,
Well,
yeah,
in the-
but in the
Go ahead.
trailer, that's not a Weapon X program that they're doing. Or if it is, it's a bastardized version.
Yeah, that's a good
Because
point.
that sure as hell isn't Stryker that he's talking to.
Yeah, it
That's
almost
about
seems
to-
like a personal thing that he opted to.
Yes,
It wasn't like a
exactly.
program. It was the whole dying thing, and then they're like, well, you could do this, and he's like, all right.
Fucking A, I gotta move to Canada. Their healthcare is awesome.
It's free healthcare, man. Exactly.
Oh my god, that's a free healthcare. There's a bunch of immortal mutants just walking around the streets of downtown Quebec right now.
Just get yourself an old Canadian ID and just hop across the border, so.
And all I got is Kaiser Permanente. Thanks, Obama.
That you have to pay for.
Yeah.
Now, what I don't remember, is there a version of Colossus in these X-Men movies already?
Yes.
Yeah, he was in
First Class?
no, this last one,
He
Days
was.
of Future Past. Also.
Yeah, he was in there. He was some small, scrawny-looking kid.
So how are they going to rectify the two Colossuses?
Uh,
Colossi?
Retcon.
What's the plural?
They're just gonna scream
Unless he's the future
retcon and just
version
call it
of
a
that.
day.
Yeah, possibly. Good call.
I
Rick.
mean,
Good call.
we've already seen the retcon Colossus in the trailer. He's that
Well,
big, scary-looking metal guy.
Well, I mean, is not if they're sticking within this origin. I mean, Wolverine origin, the worst than Green Lantern comic book movie of all time, also contained Deadpool. So I mean, they're basically retconning Deadpool. I don't know. Fox has some shit they got to figure out.
Yeah, I don't know if they're that worried about continuity just yet. I mean, they don't really have too much of a universe that's worth retconning or saving.
No, they definitely need a Kevin Feige.
But since we're on the topic of universes that need saving, what about this whole King Kong versus Godzilla thing? Because let's be honest, there are plot holes that need to be plugged before we even move in that direction.
I don't know. I haven't seen the early original ones, which I think came out in like 70s. I think. I don't think you necessarily need any kind of continuity with that.
Well,
because
let's not
Godzilla's
even go
like this-
back to the original source material. Let's look at the newer films that just came out. I mean, King Kong came out not that long ago. Remember, Jack Black was in it. And Godzilla came out 2014. So are we going to completely retcon those, and are we going to start back with the origin stories before we do a King Kong versus Godzilla, or are we going to keep those two characters? Which brings up the question of King Kong is way smaller than Godzilla. Godzilla would just step on King Kong and just be over. I don't
Well,
see how they're viable creatures that would go up against each other.
Apparently, the Peter Jackson King Kong is just gone. Like it never existed. This is a complete reboot. Skull Island will just be fresh and new. But you are absolutely right, because even in the 2014 Godzilla, which I personally really enjoyed, I know tons of people
I
out
loved
there.
it, dude. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
tons of people hated that movie, and I get it. There was way too much.
Really?
Yeah, there was way too much.
I heard a lot of. I mean, that was a. From what I remember, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people
And Rick was
complain.
distracted by the hockey playoffs too.
It was Game 6 against the
And
Kings
he
and
still
Ducks.
thought it
I
was a
barely
good
watched the
movie.
movie, but I loved it.
A lot of people complain about Kick-Ass and Scarlet Witch's love story, and then you've got Walter White, who dies halfway through the movie. I mean, there was just too many humans, they said. And,
I see.
you know, what's his name?
Hey, that's my complaint with the Transformer movies.
Yeah. Garrett, he's about to do the new Star Wars. Gareth Ennis? Grant Ennis?
Gareth Edwards.
Yeah, yes. He did the Godzilla, and they
Right.
just had his vision for it. Like, it was almost Jaws-ish, like where they didn't show enough Godzilla. They kept him, and I actually kind of appreciated that. The Godzilla that came out in the late 90s was so heavy-handed and just so, besides the P. Diddy Puff Daddy theme song that came out for
Dude,
it.
that was an
with-
awesome soundtrack. I don't know what you're talking about. I
That
have
was a great
I have
soundtrack.
that
the
soundtrack.
Hero?
the
We can be
the
heroes.
actual-
just for one day.
But if you sample Jimmy Page, like, you got to do a little bit better than a rap song.
Aw,
But that was a
hater.
little heavy-handed. I felt like this one like played it just right, and the CGI was good.
Mm-hmm.
It was very Pacific Rim-ish, I felt, without being too much.
Okay, just going back to that movie, they had the Taco Bell dog, all right? That was enough.
They did. I actually worked at Taco Bell at the time, and so I got the full brunt of that, like, cross promotion. We got Taco Bell Godzilla shirts. It was pretty ridiculous, honestly.
Oh my god, do you still have one?
Now.
I don't know, with gordita sauce all smeared across them. It has potential. I think it's really cool that somebody at least has the foresight to, like, look into it and think this is a viable option.
I don't know if King Kong and Godzilla is a good, like, monster movie type deal, but I could totally see something like Godzilla versus Pacific Rim. Something where those kaijus versus Godzilla would make total sense, because those creatures would be at about the same scale. And we're probably not going to see it now that the friggin' Pacific Rim 2 has been shelved indefinitely. We actually saw that movie in IMAX 3D. I dragged Mike and Roger to go see that movie. And
You keep saying you dragged me. I willingly wanted to go. Say you dragged Mike. I willingly wanted to see it.
okay, I like to say I dragged you guys there only because I bought the tickets beforehand and didn't tell you about it.
I was like, oh, let's go.
Hey, be like, I bought the tickets. They were $20 a pop, but hey, it's gonna be worth it.
Could you not have sold it to Mike as, like, Transformers that don't transform?
Oh my god, no! The fact that they're Transformers that don't transform
So-
was
So they're
a
both
deal
on
breaker.
then, or?
No, they're like headmasters. Like, people have got to get into them and
Oh, yeah.
control them.
Yeah.
Oh my god, if I had said it was a headmaster story, he would have he
What do you have punched you out, or?
he would have probably punched me out of the way and been like, "We're first in line."
No, I loved Pacific Rim. Del Toro just came out and basically said, like, he's got something else on his plate, but he wants to revisit it. He's still moving forward with it, with searching for locations, keeping actors in contact, still rewriting the script. I loved Pacific Rim. That was one of my favorite movies. What was that, 2013? I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I love monster movies, the big monsters like that. I've got high hopes. I hope maybe they can figure out a way to mix those. It just seems logical. Especially in this day where you're just mixing movies like this, it's a great idea.
I will say that Pacific Rim was one of my favorite movies. I don't normally fall for the gimmick of 3D and IMAX every now and then if it's worth it. And so the fact that I decided to actually watch this movie in 3D and IMAX should tell you what my expectations were for it. And the fact that I got exactly what I wanted. It's what Transformers should have been. I don't care about humans. I really don't. If I'm going to go see a movie titled Transformers, I want to go see movies about giant robots blowing up half city blocks left, right, and center. The fact that a movie called Pacific Rim didn't show me, I guess, the Pacific Rim as much, and instead focused on robots, I guess is par for the course. But still, the fact I saw giant robots blowing up half the cities everywhere they went, and screw the humans other than the fact that they are just numbers to keep track of how many people we've killed so far.
Well, and they were pilots.
Yeah, they were there, I guess. I really didn't care about them as much. And in fact, the slow parts of that film were when they stopped and focused on the humans. Just like the Transformers were slowed down anytime they focused on humans.
Which was like 75 to 85% of the movies.
Yes.
I feel you on that.
It's like, how do you mess up giant robots fighting in a city?
Michael Bay.
His answer was explosions.
Yes.
I'm gonna blow this up.
Oh, God. I think it would have been great if he had turned Megatron into a fondue pot. Optimus Prime could have been a John Deere tractor. And then people would have understood my point of he doesn't respect the source material.
Well, if you just see Pearl Harbor, you knew that.
Wow, yeah, pretty much.
Oh my God, that's awesome, Tim.
So now we got two comebacks against Michael Bay.
Not respecting the source material.
While we're on the topic, what about the concept of selling out? I mean,
Yeah, the Michael Bay was a perfect transition.
I mean,
Good call.
the guy.
Wait,
I mean, the guy. He does not care enough about the source material and would rather, go the corporate route that he thinks will make a lot more money for people, specifically the suits. So we're seeing stuff that comes out where if we knew the original stuff, the stuff that gave us nostalgia for the original material, and just throws it all out the window to recreate it to whatever you think is going to make more money. I mean, I'll throw it out there and say one of the earliest examples that I can think of is those stupid Ewoks. Those Ewoks. Hey, yeah, I'll throw a jab right at George Lucas and say that should have been Wookiees on that fucking planet. They should not have been Ewoks.
Shots fired. Nice call, sir.
it originally was, but
Yeah,
it is-
he's
it is-
absolutely right.
Yeah, it is what it is. He wanted to go the family friendly route, get more money because his contract was all about the merchandising, and I'm pretty sure he did okay with that one.
He did, but how did that hurt the storyline?
I don't think it hurt it. I love the Ewoks.
Really? You think it wouldn't?
I do love the
You didn't think
Ewoks.
that it wouldn't have been a better story with Wookiees, who we had seen at the very beginning and had been told they were badasses.
Well, I think part of the cool part about Wookiees is the mystery of them, and you see this one. There's one. He is badass. His species is known to be badass, but we just know of them being badasses as a whole. So,
But do you get that in episode 2 when you see more of them?
no, I never really got the whole badass effect, and I'm a little biased because I was never really a Chewie fan. So maybe you're asking the wrong person.
I figured everyone was a Chewie fan.
No.
But building on the same concept, like, Rick, can you apply this to the music industry? I feel like
Of course.
I feel
I
like
mean,
that's,
a lot of-
that's an industry that more people feel the wrath of
I
selling
yeah.
out.
Oh, completely. I don't want to tell you how many times I've been in arguments with people about, this band sold out, that band sold out, and I mean, come on, we've all heard it throughout high school, throughout college, even
Mhm.
now. Well, this band sold out, this band sold out. Like, fans don't know what those artists' lifestyles were like before, during, and right now what's going on in their career. They don't know what they want to do musically, technically, whenever they're writing songs, whenever they're going into the studio. Sure, if you work under a record label, the record label has some sort of influence, or they might chime in and give you their 2 cents, depending on how the last album did, how the last couple of albums did. But at the same time, the artist is going to do what the artist is going to do. And I'm sorry, excuse me, but if a band all of a sudden makes it big overnight, I think that is an absolute credit to the artist. You can't just shit on them and say they sold out. Do you think they like living in their van or touring the entire US, staying at shitty Motel 6s along the way? Do you think that's cool? Like they're just keeping rep by doing that and slumming it? No, they're in the game because of their passion, but they have a passion to succeed. And if they succeed, more kudos to them. And prime example, I think the one argument I always get into is with the band AFI, because AFI used to be very, very hardcore punk, and that's fantastic. They did what they had to do, but in my opinion, they evolved their sound. They became who they wanted to become, and they made decisions. They made a lot of money off of it. Sure, an album that came out maybe almost 10 years ago now was not that great. But you know what? Nobody bats 1,000. Come on now. I mean, U2 has had some pretty shitty albums. The Foo Fighters, well, they're probably a strong exception to the rule. But still, you're not going to completely please them all. And kudos to any artist that makes it out there. It is way harder than you would ever imagine. And F any fan out there who turns on their back on an artist that they were listening to and all of a sudden says that they sold out and they're just going to turn their back on them. Go
I
F
think
yourself.
that is actually a simplification of the industry, Rick. Now, granted, you're more involved than I am, but I do know that a lot of artists are making a lot of their music by committee. So as much as they may have written their original demo album, their secondary work has to get approved by a whole bunch of other people. I mean, how much music
I would say
has
that's
been
an
written by
artist
what's his
artist
face?
basis.
Oh God. Now, yeah, Will.i.am has written how many songs for other artists?
Okay, but
What about
again, that is
Pharrell?
by
How
that's
many
an that
songs
is
has
an
Pharrell written for other artists?
right. That's an artist by artist basis, though, and you're talking about the pop world. I'm more the experience that I have under my belt is more of the rock world. You don't have writers for songs. The actual band writes their own songs. Now, in the pop world, yes, you do
But
have
where do you draw the
you
line
do
between
have different.
pop and rock? Because even what's their face?
I
Well,
mean,
what do you
again,
think about that?
it's
Let me just
there.
agree with Rick here. Like, I've never really thought about like selling out because it's just like Rick. Is it selling out or is it making a living? You know, you can put on this big cool facade saying, "Oh yeah, I never sold out," but Rick said, are you you're touring in a Toyota Sienna when you could be going in a Lear jet. You know,
Yeah.
it's the whole point of trying to make a living. That's the reason. That's the reason you're doing this in the
Well,
first place.
and even to to I guess what Sal was getting at with in the pop world, yes, that some artists don't necessarily write their own songs, but I think in the pop world it's more of like a team effort. You do have a writer, yes, and if you want to call that selling out, so be it. But the artist still has to perform it. They still have to record it. They still have to kill it on stage. And I give all the credit in the world to any pop star that has a very, very grueling touring schedule. They're learning dance moves. They have to perform the song. And they also obviously have to record the song in the studio and absolutely nail it. So yeah, it does become a little that is an element that's different than maybe in the rock world than it is in maybe even the hip hop or the pop world. But it is what it is, and you can call them sellouts all you want. But I think they're still working their butts off. And even as big of an a-hole as Kanye is, the man is a phenomenal producer. He's a great writer, and he's a very, very talented artist. And it kills me to say that. But he really is the real deal. There's a reason why that man
Okay,
is
I
famous.
will never argue with you about Kanye. As weird as it may sound, I highly respect that guy. I've listened to his
Yeah.
interviews where he talks about chasing your dreams and going, above and beyond. He's inspirational. he knows what he wants and he goes after it.
Yeah,
So
he
that
does.
that is definitely a guy that if you ever feel kind of down and you want some inspiration in your own personal life, listen to him talk about what he's done to chase his dreams. You'll find that he's a guy who's done it, who's made it, and will continue doing it. He may stumble.
And he started out as Jay-Z's producer. I mean, that's who he was, and
Hmm.
he wanted to make a name for himself, and
Yeah,
he did it.
he went above and beyond. Oh, and the band that I was
Oh,
thinking of,
yeah.
Green Day.
Oh, Green Day. I
I
love
love
Green Day.
Green Day was awesome back in high school when I was growing up, and even
Mhm.
now I still love Green Day.
And Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, new
But
inductees.
I know
mean,
I
Oh,
know
that's
for a
right.
fact
these
that
guys are.
they aren't writing their own music a lot of the time. They do
No,
buy
I mean,
some of their music.
they wrote American Idiot all by themselves, which I think is probably one of the greatest front to back albums, probably in the last like 20 years.
I agree.
There's a really fascinating story about how American Idiot came to be. They had a completely different album recorded, and it somehow got erased. And they were just kind of threw their hands in the air and were like, fuck, well, there was something we wanted to toy around with, but I don't know. We've always wanted to kind of sort of write a rock opera, and they wrote it, and that was American Idiot, and history was made. So it the whole everything happens for a reason saying I think that holds true, especially for them. I mean, they basically got a second wind at their career from basically an accident happening.
Just to make a quick point, I don't want to belabor this topic.
yeah.
I think it really has to do with also maturity and inspiration. Fans tend to mature differently than artists, whether it be a comic book artist, a musician, a director. People don't do the same thing in 5-year blocks. The you gentlemen I met when I was 18, 19, and I specifically remember sitting in Peach Towers, drinking shots of tequila and vodka
Yeah.
with you guys, doing something that we're totally doing differently now. That is a 12-year span. To expect a band such as Metallica to do the same thing in 1988 that they were doing in 2000, it's just ridiculous. People mature. They're inspired by different things. The things that inspired me when I was 18 and 19 when I met you guys aren't the same things that inspire me now. At 18, 19, I thought I was going to be a teacher. I ended up becoming a cook. Things change for people. So people often look at artists as a comfort zone. They go to music for something that is steady. An album that came out in 1995 that makes you feel the same way now as it did then is awesome, because that's always going to be there. But to expect that artist to remain static in his inspiration is just ridiculous. Just do it with your money. If you no longer think that artist is the same, don't buy his new album. Somebody else will. He'll inspire somebody else. It's okay. Like you can let go. You let go of your stuffed animal. You let go of your security blanket. You can let go of a band that you liked. Move on. Let them do what they do though, because it's their life.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Tim. I mean, and the biggest example to your point is gonna have to be the Korn Skrillex mix. I don't know if you've heard that song, but Korn and Skrillex
Yeah.
worked together to make a song, and
Well, they made an
yeah,
album.
how cool is that? The fact that somebody that I loved growing up, Korn, made an album with Skrillex. Now, I didn't know much about Skrillex other than he did dubstep music, and I heard it, and I was like, okay. And then I saw them live with Rick, and I was like, well, I don't think Skrillex was there, but at least Korn was there, and they performed the song,
That was Korn.
and
Yeah. Mhm.
it introduced me to their music done a different way, and that was amazing for me. It opened my eyes to another genre that I hadn't heard really before. So the fact that people say selling
Yeah.
out, I say, are they evolving is a better question. And
Yes,
have
very
my
well
changes
said.
Huh.
changed?
Good word. Good word.
Have my tastes changed to keep up with what they're into now? Maybe
Yes,
saying selling out
absolutely.
isn't the best word, but they've changed to the point that I don't know who they are. Maybe I should
Yeah.
explore this a little bit. And it's human
And
psychology. Technically, we are really bad at changing changing our tastes. That's been proven time and time again. We know what we like and we stick with it. That's why when we listen to the younger generation's music, we're like, we don't know what the hell that is. That's crap. We used to make better music back in my day.
And to bring it full circle to the Skrillex point, Skrillex was in a pop punk band called From First to Last. That band still exists, obviously without him, and he just knew one day that wasn't him. That wasn't what he wanted to do. He went out on his own, and a lot of people said he was dumb for doing it. And he's making dumb money on his own right now. So because this is his passion, and this is who he is. So for sure.
And he got a cameo in Wreck-It Ralph.
There you go.
Oh, and rap battles of history. Come on. Yeah.
That's always good.
Check them out if you haven't checked them out. Rap battles of history, Mozart versus Skrillex. You'll love it. Guarantee it. Shifting gears a little bit, fan theories. We touched on it just barely last week, and I thought it was an amazing topic that needed more delving into. But I mentioned the fact that James Bond is not a person so much as it is a code name. And I asked you guys, have you guys thought of any other fan theories that have really sparked your interest or gotten your attention?
Yeah, thinking about this, I actually did a little bit of research into it. As soon as you put this topic up, I automatically had mine in mind. But one of the ones that kind of really interested me was that in The Rock, the Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery movie, basing off this idea that James Bond is just a code name, that Sean Connery's character actually is James Bond, and he was doing espionage in America and got arrested. And so it's the same character. It's the same James Bond character in The Rock. He just no longer has that code name. I thought that was kind of cool.
John Patrick Mason?
Yeah, is James Bond, but he got
Nice.
arrested in America for spying on America
That's
because
fun.
he there's a quote in the movie where this man is not known in America or Great Britain. It was a nice touch. It's just a theory. My favorite fan theory, and this is just a fan theory because obviously this is not what they had in mind when they made this movie, but it mixes Ferris Bueller's Day Off with Fight Club. And the idea is that when Cameron is the only character in that movie, and that Ferris Bueller is actually a imaginary character in Cameron's head. Ferris Bueller is who Cameron wants to be, and that Ferris Bueller constantly is talking Cameron into ideas. So he talks Cameron into taking his dad's car, he wrecks it, and when he falls back into the pool, everything that happens after that point is just in Cameron's head. And the whole idea of Ferris Bueller getting on a float in downtown Chicago, of his gorgeous girlfriend Sloane, all these characters are just imaginary. And they're in Cameron's head. He walks through Chicago holding Sloane's hand. He wants to be Ferris Bueller, but he's not. And Ferris Bueller's whole ordeal with his family, with the shitty sister, and this feud he has with the principal, and racing home to beat the clock so his parents don't know that he's not actually homesick. It's all just in Cameron's head because Cameron has a crappy home life, and this is the way he's working through it. And by the end of the movie, Ferris Bueller talks him into dealing with his issues with his own father. I love that idea.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go watch that movie now again.
It's gonna put a different spin on it.
So wait, there's no such thing as Ferris Bueller at all.
No.
He's the Tyler Durden to
Yes.
yes, Jack,
Edward
whatever
Norton.
his name.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay. I like that. And can anybody beat that?
Yeah, that fan theory is awesome. If you haven't heard it, guys, just go up and look it up. Ferris Bueller's Day Off fan theory. It's amazing the depth that some people have gone to see if they can prove this one to be true. And I won't lie, it looks solid the whole way through. But my favorite has to be the whole SpongeBob is a nuclear experiment gone wrong. The fact that the place is called Bikini Bottom, and it's a reference to Bikini Atoll, where we had a nuclear explosion that went off. And, you know, Bikini Atoll on top and Bikini Bottom below, where we have creatures who are just horribly mutated and can speak, communicate with each other, and have their own civilization thanks to the explosion that went off above them. Makes all the insanity make a little bit more sense.
So how they explain Sandy coming down, and is she like
She's a
the
scientist
scientist?
going in to check on what happened after the explosion.
Cool.
Yeah. Sandy Squirrel is going to check in what happened at Chernobyl.
She's
Keep
the
your helmet
volunteer.
on.
Yeah.
It's actually a radiation
Yeah,
suit.
seriously, it's not a habitation suit. It's a radiation suit. Or if you guys have a chance, go check out the Drag Me to Hell theory, where the whole movie is about a girl going through anorexia.
Now, this one I liked because I love Drag Me to Hell. I love Sam Raimi with the way he spins kind of like humor into horror movies. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and this was just pure fun to watch. And just to hear this theory it makes it even more fun, and to me to want to watch this movie again and again.
Yeah, the whole theory, for those of you who haven't heard this, is that if you look back at the movie, Alison Lohman's character actually never touches food. Throughout the entire film, she's afraid of making her fat and disgusting. And anytime she sees any of the crazy demons or whatnot, it's all in her head. It's the irrationality coming from the fact that she hasn't eaten in a while. So anytime that she actually finds a demon that attacks her, it's always something about food or something going into her mouth or going out of her mouth. It's her fighting her personal demons with anorexia.
Spoiler alert, the very, very end of the movie when you think she's kind of in the clear, she essentially gets dragged to hell at a train station. But now I almost envision, well, maybe she like passed out from not eating and she got decked by the train, I mean, that just makes it even more fun now. Like, oh shit, that makes sense.
And to your point, when Justin Long's looking at her, like, oh shit, like he's looking at the dead body of his girlfriend.
Right, or just the runnings overs.
Yeah, whatever.
So,
Yeah, the remains.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that would be another good watch post knowing this theory.
There's a subreddit out there. There's crack.com, but there's a subreddit out there. If you guys just Google fan theories, it's well worth. You'll fall down a rabbit hole, but you'll be entertained if you love culture at all.
I love Cracked, so.
Yeah, Cracked is really good. Their new mobile site kind of frustrates me with where they only put like one page per thing. But this is something out there that if anybody has any geekdom, I would imagine anybody with geekdom has searched this stuff out. But if anybody out there has a good one that we aren't talking about, please send it in. We'd love to discuss it.
Yeah, totally. Throw it in there. Now,
what's
Roger,
the one that you mentioned about Will Smith?
Oh my God! Yeah, you got to talk about that one.
This is the one I fell down this rabbit hole and they sure enough mentioned the Ferris Bueller one. That's where I saw that Drag Me to Hell one. There's some really good ones out there. The subreddit started with an explanation of Signs, which was I hate that movie. I mean, with a passion. And this subreddit actually almost convinced me to rewatch that movie. I will not do it, but it almost convinced me. So I'm scrolling down, and this one pops up about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And it just automatically what on earth is this? And this one just basically described how Will, at the beginning of the show, is basically shot on the streets of Philadelphia at this basketball fight. And the cab driver takes him. His mother decides to send him to Los Angeles, but the cab driver is actually an angel ushering him off to heaven. And he ends up in Bel-Air, which loosely translates to beautiful heaven, beautiful air. And he gets placed in a home with a judge. And this subreddit basically describes all the different characters, Jeffrey, the mother, Hillary, Ashley, and gives them all angels' names, and basically describes how his entire experience in Los Angeles is a purgatory situation where he has to work through his sins, including probably the most famous episode where he meets his father, who recently passed away, and has to deal with those issues before he can move on to heaven.
Okay, before we go any further, and because this is such an awesome just thread that we can go on forever, one of the theories that I want to bring out is the fact that the Haunted Mansion
Oh, I
the
love
Haunted
this.
Mansion at
Yes,
Disneyland
do this.
is about you
Yes.
dying. The very beginning of the ride, they tell you point blank, the narrator of the
Yes.
whole story tells you that there's only one way to escape the Haunted Mansion.
Yes. And then there's a theory you commit suicide, and then there's also the theory that that the lady with the axe cuts your head off.
And it makes more sense with the groundskeeper at the
Yes.
end. When you pass right by him, he's terrified
Yes.
of you. Not because you are scary, but because you are a ghost.
Yes.
That fan theory is super awesome, crazy fun.
Did we talk about the Disney one yet?
Him being
It's just-
cryogenically frozen?
No.
Oh, okay,
no.
my bad.
That theory is real.
Yeah, that's actually him and Ted Williams are cryomates
Oh,
in
that's
some
so
bunker
sad.
somewhere.
That's so sad. And
I
his
hate-
head is
head.
separated from his body. Oh god.
Yes. So I'm not gonna explain too far down the rabbit hole. This is definitely something you can Google or Reddit anywhere. Everybody has been talking about these Pixar. There is apparently a Pixar / Disney animation universe theory to where every single Pixar character is related to another in some sort of way. It's like some sort of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon type thing, where I'll give you a brief example. The fact that Andy's mom in Toy Story is actually the original owner of Jessie, the original owner that leaves Jessie behind, therefore giving Jessie the whole abandonment fear theory. And just like how everything comes full circle. I mean, there are just crazy stories of how the characters from Toy Story are essentially tied to the characters of Up and Wall-E, and it's incredible. Just go read it, Google it. You could talk for hours about it. It's really incredible.
Well, there's something about how the batteries in Buzz Lightyear Big and Save is the company in Up, or not Up, Wall-E.
It's by and large.
Wall-E.
By and large.
By and large.
Yeah.
I'll try to be
Yeah.
And then there's another one where the Incredibles logo is on somebody's boxers in another movie.
Oh yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
And then just throughout
Wasn't it a comic
all the
book?
movies, have you guys seen the truck that's in all the movies? There's
The Pizza Planet truck.
Yes.
the Pizza Planet.
Every
Oh.
Pixar movie has that truck in it
You're right.
somewhere.
That's cool.
Including Wall-E. I remember in Wall-E, it's in the background, like just totally just
Oh,
junked.
wow.
But it's in
And
there.
then in another movie, it's a pizza delivery truck, and then in another movie, it's this. Yeah, Pixar is really good about that.
There's also a tie between Frozen and Rapunzel. That one's pretty crazy as well. Again, Google it.
Yeah, that
It's
one's
fun.
actually there. They show up for her
Oh
wedding.
no, not just that. Yes, there is a cameo
Yeah.
with Finn and Rapunzel and Frozen.
Yeah.
Yes, but there's a whole theory to where the wicked aunt or whatever she was in Rapunzel is actually related somehow to the characters in Frozen. She's apparently the sister of the mom who died in the she's one of the parents. That is the
Yes.
sibling. The evil witch in Rapunzel is the sibling of the mom in Frozen.
Yes,
that
and
dies
there's
at the beginning,
also
so it's
the parents that die in Frozen are on the ship that sinks, and that's the ship in Little Mermaid.
Right? Yes.
Yes.
There's that one as well. Yes. It's crazy. It's crazy, but I love it. It's awesome. All right.
Yes, I love it. But before we keep going down this rabbit hole, Roger, you wanted to talk about Spectre.
All right. So for this week with James Bond coming out in November and our talk about James Bond last week, I was asked to do a little synopsis about the history of Spectre. Now, as most of the Bond film aficionados know, Spectre is the big organization that James Bond tackles in the films. But Spectre in the books didn't come across until the novel Thunderball, which is the 9th book in the series. Now, when James Bond first starts in Casino Royale, in the first book, he battles an organization called SMERSH, which is the combination of two Russian words which translate to death to spies. Following the defeat of SMERSH, Spectre, as I said, is introduced in Thunderball, which is the fourth movie in the Bond series. Spectre is an acronym standing for Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion. And if you Wikipedia the logo, it looks like the Hydra logo, this octopus, that is trying to take over the world. Spectre's leader is Ernst Stavro Blofeld, who also makes his debut in the Thunderball novel, and it is the beginning of what is dubbed the Blofeld Trilogy, which is followed by the novels On Her Majesty's Secret Service and You Only Live Twice, which are coincidentally also the fifth and sixth movies. It is unofficially included in the beginning scene of For Your Eyes Only because of legal disputes between the producers of the Bond films, and there was another producer and screenwriter named Kevin, his name escapes me at this point, but he went on to make Never Say Never Again, which was Connery's last film as James Bond, and is also kind of an unofficial Bond movie as it's not part of the Broccoli production of Bond movies. Spectre is also alluded to 4 times in the books and 5 times in the film. And you could, as I said, you could include Never Say Never Again, which was released in 1983, making it a 32-year absence since Bond fans have heard of Spectre. Spectre is first mentioned in the first Bond movie, Dr. No, where he goes over the acronym, and they're not really they're described as not really an evil organization. They're just out to rent to the highest bidder to take over to provide world conquest or whatever the needs may be. That is the history of Spectre in the nutshell.
All right. Well, we've got a little bit of time left, so we're going to go right into our picks of the week. Timmy, what's your pick of the week?
My pick of the week is Girl Meets World, a show on Disney Channel that my daughter has turned me on to. It's amazing. It's got all the characters from Boy Meets World, which is great. And this week's episode is actually going to use that Forrest Gump green screen and going to introduce the characters from that show into an old episode of Boy Meets World. And me and my daughter could not be more excited about it.
Nice. Rick, what's your pick of the week?
Did I already pick Narcos?
No, you did
my
not.
God. Narcos. If you have Netflix, my pick of the week, my pick of the next month is it's a Netflix original TV show. It is called Narcos, about it is loosely, very, very loosely based on the life of Pablo Escobar, who we know basically who was one of the biggest drug kingpins of the 80s. It's just fascinating. It's mostly subtitled. There is a little bit of English here and there, but for the most part, it is in Spanish. But man, it's like reading a great book. You just want it to keep going and going.
All right, you still have to pick another pick of the week next week.
Oh, I will.
Pick of the week for you is
You can't use this one.
Roger, what is your pick
My
of the
pick
week?
of the week, I came across this movie last week, The St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Yes, it is exactly as it sounds. It's a Roger Corman take on the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. You got Jason Robards playing Al Capone, George Segal, who plays Peter Grusenberg, who is one of the big henchmen in the Bugs Moran game, and it is just so well acted, so well done. I believe this movie came out in 1972. It's the narrator who describes all the characters and events. If you listen to him, you guys will recognize him. I don't know the guy's name off the top of my head, but he did a lot of Disney and a lot of voiceovers. He's got this real deep voice, and it says, "This is Chicago in 1929, and this is Bug Moran's last day in life." Very, very well done. I just think it's a great throwback movie to put on the screen for an afternoon.
All right, my pick of the week for this week is something a little more recent, Heart in a Box. It's a Dark Horse comic that just came out yesterday. For those of you who don't know about the story, it's about a young woman. I forget her name. Anyways, she decides that after having a bad relationship, she wishes her heart's at which is just all the emotions that come with having a broken heart, and then everything that she has to go through to try to get her heart back. It's a great story. We're finding tons of people, including Scott Snyder, who are loving this story. So I recommend it to anyone. Go out right now, pick up Heart in a Box. It's definitely worth read. Ladies and gentlemen, that's been our show. I've been your host, Sal Berrigan. We've had with us Tim, Rick, and Roger. If you'd like to contact us, you can always hit us up on YouTube at youtube.com/Retconners, Facebook at facebook.com/Retconners. If you can guess what Instagram and Twitter are, you'd be correct if you said at Retconners. Or you can hit us up at Gmail at retconners@gmail.com. If you have any questions or would like to know more about our show, you can go to InsidePulse.com and check us out at the Comics Nexus, which will have all of your comics needs. For us here at Retconners, it's been swell. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right.
See you later.